Alex Miller, tell us, since you've been on pause from credit repair, what are you up to these days?
Well, these days, I'm doing business credit, big business credit, shelf corporations, getting people funded $50,000 all the way to $500,000 cash business loans across their tax ID, getting bigger houses, multiple houses, bigger cars, multiple cars, get my clients fleets of cars and tractor trailers, whatever they want. The sky's the limit. We getting creative with the business funding. Give me a call or shoot me a DM if you serious and you can put some skin in the game. Get yourself a shelf corporation. Get you some real money within 90 days or less.
What's up, good people, and welcome back to my channel where we bond over our favorite TV shows, trending topics, and everything in between that we care about, including infamous social media influencers, like the first one we're going to cover today. So this is officially the first episode of our infamous series. And this particular episode was actually requested by one of our subscriber family members. And so just, you know, because of the topic at hand, we're going to keep them private. However, I want to thank you for bringing this to my attention and also providing me with some receipts so that I could start my research and dig a little deeper. And we have plenty more to come with additional requests that I've been receiving in my DMs and our VIP text community of other infamous people that our subscriber family members and VIP members want me to cover in the near future. So with that, let's get into this particular infamous influencer who goes by the name of Alex V. Miller. But before we get into this episode, a little housekeeping. Please take this time to like this video below to help us grow. Also, if you're not a subscriber, this will be a great time to hit that subscribe button below. And especially if you've been here multiple times before watching videos and have yet to hit that subscribe button to officially join the subscriber family. Come on, we're waiting on you. So, and if you want to add that extra layer of support to me and my channel, YouTube has now included a thanks button below with a little heart, which actually allows you to give a monetary tip if you're enjoying this content. Helps me, helps the channel grow. This is a full-time job for me. Requires a lot of research and and work. This is real work, people, happening. It's a different kind of work, but it's real work happening. And it's not required. However, if you are interested in showing that extra layer of support, it would be greatly appreciated by me and this channel, as it will help us continue to grow. Now on to our first infamous social media influencer. Before Alex Miller became the founder of Alex Miller Credit Repair, he struggled with food shortages and drug overuse for most parts of his adolescent years. However, his commitment towards his life goals led him to overcome the obstacles, and today Alex is proudly known as the self-professed credit score guru in the industry. Or is he the guru of $9 million in scams? Let's get into it. Alex Miller grew up in a small town of LA. He belonged to a low-income family and aimed to transform his family's financial situation by working hard. He recalls writing the same goals on a piece of paper when he was young and keeping the paper with him at all times whenever he came across a hurdle in life. Alex took a look at the list to divert his focus back to his life goals. However, unfortunately, the negative influences of his environment eventually won out. Alex got into bad company and started abusing drugs. He eventually dropped out of college during this time and wasted a few good years of his life. Alex eventually realized his mistakes and moved to Atlanta to pursue a new life. And some of you may already know that some of these scammers really love Atlanta. In Atlanta, Alex secured a job in the corporate sales sector of American Express. There he learned the importance of having a good credit score. He also realized the impact of a negative credit score on people's quality of life and how difficult it was for them to rent a place, get a loan, and even get car insurance with low rates. With the intention of doing something to help such people out, Alex Miller said goodbye to his 5-year-old lucrative job and began making plans to set up his own credit repair firm. And so far, this rag to riches story seems very inspiring. But let's see what happens next. So eventually Alex moved to Houston, Texas, where he started the Alex Miller Credit Repair Firm, which was launched in his small apartment. Initially, Alex struggled, but refusing to give up, he said at one point that he tried to help as many people as he could turn their credit scores around. Eventually, he came up with the 3-round burst, a unique protocol that helped repair even the worst credit score. In a very short time frame, that strategy was an instant success and made Alex Miller the credit guru of the industry. In a very short time frame, with his growing knowledge of how to utilize social media, the strategy appeared to become an instant success and eventually made Alex Miller the self-professed credit repair guru of the industry. One article he was interviewed in stated, Alex Miller runs a multi-million-dollar company with a client base all across the globe. His dedication towards his goals not only led him to change his own future, but also many others through his company. However, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission's civil complaint is saying that the only change that Alex V. Miller made in the lives of the people he was serving was scamming them to the tune of $9 million. Now, what I found was interesting was that as I was researching this story, based on the receipts received from one of our loyal subscribers, I ran into the actual FTC, the Federal Trade Commission's civil complaint against Alex V. Miller. And this isn't old. This isn't a couple years ago. This is an active case as of March 1st of 2022. And what I find is interesting, and it aligns with, what we've seen before with, Darius Crooks. I don't want to mention him throughout this whole video, but there's some running themes here, and that's kind of how we've gone from one scammer that I knew personally to a world of infamous scammers. So what I found was interesting is that this dude as in Alex V. Miller, has an open case. Y'all see all this, and I had to print it out because I was online reading it at a PDF, and I was saying, I gotta highlight-ish. I need to be able to make notes because it was so much. So, and I'm not laughing at the situation. What I'm laughing at is that when you go to this dude's Instagram, he is playing the victim. He is acting as if nothing is wrong. This ain't happening, and it's actively happening with the U.S. government. This is not happening, and that is all a misunderstanding, and he's run a legitimate business, and people are jealous of him because they're after. Y'all see where I'm going? Y'all, is it reminding y'all of something? So, Lord Jesus, help us. So what I'm going to do, because this is actually a 20-page document, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I did go through and kind of highlight the key points in this so that you guys could wrap your mind around it like I had to, because this was so unlike the Darius Crooks things where I'm personally connected, and so I knew a lot of the pieces. So this is not that for me. This was like, I'm like y'all coming into it like, who is Alex V. Miller? Most of y'all are not gonna know who this dude is, like I didn't. But when you hear this story, it's very interesting. And the last time I had to print out a court complaint because it was so long was James Timothy Norman from Welcome to Sweetie Pies, where, there's a open case with that as well for the removing of the life of his nephew, the hiring to remove the life of his nephew. And so this was taking me back. I'm like, oh God, it's so much. I gotta be able to print it out and highlight it. But I'm going to just read highlights of this. This is a 20-page document. I'm not going to read it verbatim, word for word. I've learned. I've grown, y'all, since a year ago when I did the James Timothy Norman thing. So it starts by saying the plaintiff, the United States of America, acting upon the notification and authorization to Attorney General by the Federal Trade Commission, also known as the FTC, pursuant to section, they give those legal sections, and then it says this is an action arising under sections, and gives the sections, which applies to the FTC Act. It also applies to the Credit Repair Organizations Act, also the Telemarketing and Consumer Fraud and Abuse Prevention Act, and lastly, the FTC's Telemarketing Sales Rule. So what we're actually talking about here is the violation of multiple federal acts. So let's get into the actual nature of this case. It says, since at least 2018, defendants have operated an unlawful credit repair scam that has harmed vulnerable consumers nationwide through internet websites, social media, and telemarketing. Defendants falsely claim that for a fee ranging from several $100s to more than $1,500 that they can improve consumers' credit scores. Defendants attempted to improve credit scores for their customers by filing false identity theft reports on the FTC's identitytheft.gov website and by other means, all by which are either ineffective or unlawful. In addition, defendants have routinely solicited and accepted prohibited advance fees for their credit services and failed to make required disclosures regarding those services. And because of this, the United States seeks a civil money penalty. So again, what I find is interesting with this is that these credit repair places, you guys need to be very careful. And this is interesting and actually a cautionary situation as well for those who are not aware that when a credit repair company is asking you for advance payment, that's a red flag right there. And according to the Federal Credit Repair Organization Act, credit repair services are banned from demanding advance payment, and the contracts are required to be in writing, and the consumer should be given a document that explains their cancellation rights. So if you're not getting those things, if that's not the path that any company you're dealing with or talking to or potentially looking into, if that is not their path, run away. They not legit. They gonna have problems with the FTC, just like Alex V. Miller. Also, and Darius Crooks. Let's not forget about that. But because Darius Crooks is a penny scammer, his was only in Georgia. It was not federal. That's probably coming. But anyway, as it pertains to credit repair, the truth of the matter is you guys can do this yourselves. Like, really just do your research. There are many apps out there. There's ways to handle your credit yourself, do some research, etc. I can't get into that because that's not what I do here, but I do know how to do it. But long story short, you don't need to pay thousands of dollars to do the things that these people are doing. And in most cases, they're not even doing it. And that's the problem. And that's how we get here with people who have spent $9 million. So you're talking people who are spending, you know, like they said, several hundred to, you know, $1,000, $1,500 or a couple $1,000s. And it has added up to $9 million. So you can imagine how many people and how much money that is. Could you imagine them putting that same money into their debt, into the bad credit, into the collections? You know, so keep that in mind. That's just my little soapbox moment. Let's see. I don't know if I want to read all of this now. Okay. And then we get into the parties. Who is actually a part of this civil complaint? It says the plaintiff is the United States of America. The defendant is Turboat Solutions, Inc., which is a Wyoming company with its principal place of business in Houston, Texas. And it says Turboat Solutions was administratively dissolved for tax delinquency on June 9th of 2021. So here's another thing. So there's a couple things here. I don't know how much I'm gonna break this down, but there's some key things that's happening here that I don't want to gloss over. So Turbo Solutions, Inc. is the new name, or was one of the names that Alex V. Miller was using for the credit repair scam. Because we can officially say it's a scam because the government's saying it's a scam. So the thing I noticed is that the company's located in Wyoming, and we know that he's located in Houston, and before that it was Atlanta. So a lot of these people, and you know, the crook we talk about a lot, also has his companies not based in the state that he actually lives in. They will create these companies in different states that have lower tax rates. And so as we see here, he registered this company in Wyoming. I'm sure he probably ain't never been there. But anyway, and then the other piece I noticed here is that it was administratively dissolved for tax delinquency on June 9th of 2021. And they don't do that after you late, you know, your first year. This guy, Alex V. Miller, is claiming to be a millionaire. And every video you see of him on Instagram, every other one, at least, really every video, is him flashing Versace and all of his designer clothes and jewelry and, you know, fancy cars and all of that. But you delinquent on your taxes. Somebody else does that too. That's a whole nother story. So it's like, these are the things that we have to pay attention to, like just not the facade of these people on social media. We have to stop being enamored by the facade of what people are showing us on social media. I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it 15,000 times since I've had this channel. Social media is smoke and mirrors. This is a different version of TV. Did you believe everything you saw on Different Strokes? Or the Flintstones? This is the same. But anyway, let's listen. I'm showing my age with those references, but let's see what else they said. So it goes on to say Turbo Solutions was formerly known as Alex Miller Financial Services, Inc. So I said he had changed the name. And then it goes on to say, and has done business as Alex Miller Credit Repair. So he's changed his name a few times, probably running from different things. And then it goes on to say, at all times relevant to this complaint, acting alone or in concert with others, Turbo Solutions has marketed and sold credit repair services to consumers throughout the United States. Turbo Solution has employees in the United States and has employees or subcontractors in the Philippines. So he's contracting out some level of his work to overseas. And it says Turbo Solutions transacts or has transacted business in the districts throughout the United States. And then in paragraph 8, it goes on to say, Defendant Alex V. Miller is or was an owner, officer, director, or manager of Turbo Solutions. He is an authorized signature on many of the defendant's bank accounts. At all times relevant to this complaint, acting alone or in concert with others, he has formulated, directed, controlled, had the authority to control, or participated in acts and practices set forth in this complaint. So I think the government is using this part right here to make it very clear. Don't be acting like you didn't know what was happening in your company. You were a part of all of this. You were signing checks. You was bank accounts you own it, and you were a part of some of the shenanigans that they're going to describe a little later on in this. So here we go. I'm going to fast forward because, again, I am not reading this whole thing. This ain't no childcare. This ain't circle time. We're not reading no stories. So then this next section talks about defendants' unlawful business activities. It says defendants' deceptive website and social media accounts. The government ain't holding back on no words. They like deceptive. And they say on website and social media accounts. This ain't no one area. This ain't no one accidental flyer that didn't have some disclaimer on it. This is a straight up scam. Scammy scam. So anyway, it says in paragraph 25, to induce customers to purchase their credit repair services, defendants maintain an internet website, alexmillercreditrepair.com, and continue to operate various social media accounts on which they market and made deceptive claims regarding their credit repair services. Defendants have claimed to be a professional, and this is in quotes, that's what the government did, a professional credit corrections company specializing in restructuring and rebuilding your credit. Independent defendant Alex Miller has claimed to be a credit repair expert on debt validation. Again, all these self-proclaimed grand titles. That's what scammers do too, though. So we're skipping ahead to paragraph 30 where it says, defendant's website and Instagram account also promotes their services using purported testimonials that display pictures of homes and automobiles with captions such as, I fixed her credit. She bought this house. I saw those. I'm putting them up here. I'll probably just have them flashing on the screen while I'm reading the rest of this. But, oh my God. It's because it's like when you know, once you see stuff like this, you're like, this is so obvious. I mean, it's obvious when you're seeing it, but sometimes we give too much benefit of the doubt for these scammers, and that's how they scam us. So then the next area talks about, and just for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of breeze through it, but it says the next section talks about the defendant's deceptive telemarketing practices. So basically they were being very aggressive in the telemarketing practices. They weren't really giving people full information. It was kind of like, it was just like a quick sell. Let me sell you real quick and get you off this phone so I can get to the next person. They probably had some kind of quota or something. So there was a lot of misleading things that were said or information that just wasn't given at all. Even, and we may have a second episode, I guess. It all depends on how interested you guys are with this one. And so there are actual complaints from real life customers who talk about their experiences with them. And part of it was, you know, things like the call where they're like, even people who are saying, okay, I was just calling to get information. And they're like, well, if you call back, the price is going to go up. So they're like getting people to pull out their credit cards, you know, right there on the phone and, you know, taking all kind of stuff. So that was one of the charges. And then we get into defendant's unlawful enrollment process. So part of that was, again, it is unlawful by federal law for these credit repair services to ask for upfront payments. And they were asking for upfront payments of up to $1,500. And the price just ranged. If someone said that they couldn't afford the $1,500 in order to make the sale, they would be like, okay, well, $1,200 or $1,000 or whatever it was. And so that was, again, how they were trapping these people who were in, vulnerable positions with as it pertains to their credit. So in addition to the upfront payments, some of the customers were saying that they didn't get contracts at all. And then none of them got the information that explained to them their rights to be able to cancel. Basically, depending on where you're at, we call it the 3-day right to rescind. So when you signed a contract, you should have a rescind period to change your mind. Like, maybe you want to dig a little deeper, do some comparison, whatever, but you should have that ability to rescind within a given amount of time. And they were not making people aware that they had that right. They were just trapping them into these contracts. And then the other thing was, it says defendants do not follow through on credit repair promises. So again, I'm sure he's probably making up some of the same lies that Darius Crooks did about just not knowing. But even if you don't know, you should then at least be following up with what you told people you were going to do. And so the government claims here in this complaint that they did not follow through on their credit repair promises. And when we say this, we mean Alex V. Miller and his employees, I guess. So in paragraph 40, the government goes on to say, defendants' services do little or nothing to increase consumers' credit scores. And also in this section, it goes on to talk about how they, unbeknownst to the consumers, the people who were their customers, they were filing fake identity theft claims with the FTC on behalf of these people. So these were like legitimate credit history strikes on them. And in order to improve their credit, they were illegally filing these identity theft claims. And these consumers were not aware that they were making those sort of claims in their name. In addition, the government was saying, even if the documents were not fake or the claim of identity theft wasn't fake, it doesn't automatically mean that your credit report gets cleared and your score goes up. So that, even them doing that, was all for naught, per the government right here. And then they have an example where they said, in summary, consumers who purchase defendants' credit repair services do not obtain promised improvements to their credit scores. In fact, at least one consumer reported that her credit score actually worsened after purchasing the defendant's credit repair services. And then it goes on to say, since at least 2018, defendants have collected over $9 million from thousands of consumers through their unlawful credit repair scheme. The FTC has received dozens of consumer complaints about defendant scams. Based on the facts and violations of the law alleged in this complaint, the government has reason to believe that the defendants are violating or are about to violate laws enforced by the FTC. And in the consumer injury, they say consumers are suffering, have suffered, and will continue to suffer substantial injury as a result of the defendants' violations of the FTC Act, the Credit Repair Act, and the Telemarketer Act, and the telemarketer sale rules. Absent injunctive relief by this court, defendants are likely to continue to injure consumers and harm the public interest. So it goes on to say the prayer for relief. So this is what they're asking. Grant preliminary injunction and ancillary relief as may be necessary to avert the likelihood of consumer injury during dependency of this action and to preserve the possibility of effective final relief, including but not limited to temporary and preliminary injunctions, an order freezing assets, and appointment of a receiver. The government is also asking in this complaint that they enter into a permanent injunction that would prevent Alex V. Miller and his companies from violating any more acts, so basically shutting them down. They're also asking to be able to award monetarily or other reliefs to those consumers who were scammed, and that Alex V. Miller be fined for all monetary civil penalties related to all of the violations that he has created through his unethical business practices. And so one of the takeaways from this was, in the work that we're doing, in relations to Darius Crooks and other things that are to come and etc., we have a similar kind of thing where there's a social media influencer who is actively scamming people, going through things legally, but acting as if they're not happening. But what has even gotten us to this point is that some people, and like they just said, dozens. So if he scammed $9 million, I'm sure the great majority, probably 90% of the people ain't even said nothing. They kind of moved on with their life. They let it go. But the 10% or so people said enough is enough. And they reached out to the FTC and complained to tell their stories. And something is now happening about it. And so what's key with these sort of situations with these scammers, the only way to truly shut them down, because many of them are not only narcissists, but like sociopaths. Like it's deep. It goes deep. These are people who generally, these are people many times who have different mental disorders. And so we become their victims and they're acting this stuff out. Whereas all of us, many of us at least, if this were happening in our life, we would, and we were wrong, we'd be like, okay, you caught me. Okay, let me stop. Let me fix this. Let me not. let me try to make people whole again, etc. Whereas this guy is actively every day posting like nothing is happening. That to me is a true sign of, I guess I can't say, I gotta say allegedly, because I don't know this person. I know Darius Crooks. I don't know this person, so I have to say allegedly this is a sign of someone who has some mental issues going on. And so don't be fooled by the smoke and mirrors. Like, we got to wake up, people. So this guy now, I've been browsing. I don't be on this stuff like that. But what he's been doing is, and I probably got to follow him on a different account because I'm probably going to get blocked after this video. I just thought about it. I can't use my main account to browse him no more. That's a whole nother story. That's behind the scenes stuff. But he has now shifted his business model. Darius is working on that too. Pay attention, people. He's now shifted his business model where he's working on getting businesses hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, this is his claim, allegedly. He's getting these businesses hundreds of thousands of dollars by applying for business loans through him some kind of way. I don't know, because I ain't dug that deep. But anyway, you see a lot of those posts where he's doing that. And so he's shifting out of the credit repair. And there are people, you should see his comments too, where people are cheerleading him on. They're saying that the people are just a bunch of haters. Haters that was obviously scammed out of $9 million. But I guess the United States is a hater too. It's deep, y'all. It's deep. It's deep. So moral of the story is watch out for this guy for sure, because it looks like not only is Darius Crooks not alone in this internet social media scamming thing, but he might actually be a part of some secret social media scammers of America association. I think they meet up and they talk about their strategies, because when you watch it, when you really study it, like I've started to do, there's some running things. It's like, oh, there's like some business strategy behind this. It's like, do y'all have business plans for scamming? What is happening? Nevertheless, as I've started embarking upon our new infamous series, I've learned that Darius Crooks is a very small fish in a large pond of internet scammers. And my DMs have more than proved it with the requests that I'm getting to cover other infamous social media influencers, unknown and known, near and far. But you know what? I'm up for the challenge.
Hey, poppin' like I'm supposed to. Watch out for the people that ain't close to. Speak a little something you could toast to. I ain't tryna hear about what you won't do. Moving like I'm into. Hit the ground running like the rent do. Speak a little something that you're into. I ain't tryna hear about what you been through. Like hold up, say what's the hold up. I got the pack, who got the roll up? I'm tryna pull up. It seem like every time I show up, it gotta go up. See the drip, they see the glow up. Oh, now they know us. See, it's funny how my pockets out of shape, but I'm fit for the flex. Clear the phone call, hit my chick with a text. Parlay through the bird with my drip from the jets. Save a couple